walk with me. And as we wander down the crowded street, even if we're shuffling our feet, you make me never want to miss a beat. We're meant to be. And if you lie with me under the sycamore tree, whether we're high or low, there's nowhere else I wanna go. Hold my hand, fall in love with footprints in the sand, and kiss each other while we watch the band. And everyone who knows us understands we're meant to be. And if you lie with me under the sycamore tree, whether we're high or low, there's nowhere else I wanna go. So walk with me as we wander down the crowded street. Even if we're shuffling our feet, you make me never wanna miss a beat, never miss a beat. And if you lie with me under the sycamore tree, whether we're high or low, nowhere else I wanna go. And if you lie with me under the sycamore tree, whether we're high or low, nowhere else I wanna go. So walk with me, walk with me.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City of Cedar Falls Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, June 16th. I will call this meeting to order. And clerk, roll call, please.
Schultz?
Here.
Latta?
Here.
Cruz?
Here.
Hawbaker?
Here.
Ganfield?
Here.
Chrisman? Here. Dunn?
Here.
All members present, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll move to item number 1, downtown parking discussions. And for that, we've got Parking Supervisor Marcy Prybach. Thank you, Marcy. And I guess real quick, I'll set up. So this is kind of a follow-up. I know Marcy's got some of this in the presentation, but follow-up from the last conversation to bring back some of that paid parking discussion. We've got a few of the follow-ups from the previous meeting to get confirmation from everyone on for some of the parking rates, for the permits and the tickets. And then also we'll kind of jump into some of the details of the paid parking, knowing tonight we're not looking for specific action, but then at least get it in front of everybody and get some thoughts. So all yours, Marcy.
All right, so as he said, we're here for downtown parking discussions. So Jumping right into it, as he said, this is a follow-up to the July 15th, 2024 and May 19th, 2025 Committee of the Whole downtown parking discussions. Tonight we're going to present downtown paid parking proposal and at tonight's meeting, and that includes the combined input from all the following meetings. The parking consultant, Fishbeck, when they did their parking study collection, and presentations on June 17th, 2024 and July 15th, 2024 at the Committee of Whole meetings. The steering committee, which is comprised of city staff, we had various meetings to discuss. Downtown Community Main Street board members met on October 22nd, 2024. We had 2 downtown stakeholder meetings on November 7th, 2024, and a city council committee of the whole meeting on May 19th, 2025. We're also looking just to confirm direction from council tonight for citywide parking citation and monthly parking permit fees, and then direction on parking occupancy counts. We'd also like to receive direction from council at a future committee of the whole meeting on the paid parking system that we're proposing tonight. Topics for tonight's meeting, just as a recap, citywide parking citation and monthly parking permit fees. Receive a motion from council to implement recommended increases and update the ordinances and fee schedules accordingly. Parking occupancy counts. Staff continue to collect monthly parking occupancy counts as directed by council, and then present the collected monthly parking occupancy counts to council on a semi-annual basis, and present the paid parking system proposal. And there would be, again, no action by council requested at this meeting for that. So the citywide parking citations, those will be increasing from $10 to $25 effective January 2026, and an additional $5 late fee if not paid in 30 days from the date issued per the Iowa Code. Citywide monthly parking permits would be increased incrementally based on concerns heard from council, and those will increase from $35 per month to $50 per month effective January 2026, and then $70 per month effective January 2027, or we could increase right to the $70 per month in January 2026. These will remain available for the lot-specific purchase in the 5 downtown municipal lots. And they would also, this includes the approximately 60 parking spaces in the newly acquired US Bank lot. That'll be the extension of the 2nd Street West lot. So just a general comparison. So the estimated average citations, as you can see there, I don't know if you want me to go through all the calculations or if you just want to look at those. So we averaged about 9,157 citations based on the current price. So the $10 base price right now, that brings us to $91,570. We collect an average of 75% of our citations. So those fees collected comes to $68,677.50. Proposing that increase, so moving the $10 base fee up to that $25 base fee. Again, just taking that average of the 9,157 times $25 brings us up to the $228,925. Again, collecting the average 75%. So the fees collected there would be the $171,693.75. And so you can see the compared revenue there comes out to be the $103,016.25. And noting this, the parking citations are for citywide. They're not just between downtown and College Hill. Mm-hmm. And then this would be the permit comparisons. So the first section is our current cost, $35 a month. We average about 43 parking permits per month between College Hill and downtown. So then you can see what the fees collected, that $18,060. If we would move those up to $50 per month, you can see that we would gain the average of $7,740. If we go up to that $70, so if we go incrementally up to $50 in 2026 and then up to $70 in 2027, you would then gain another $10,320. So a recap of the estimated increased revenue. An increase in parking citations from the $10 to the $25 effective January 2026 would give us an additional $3,000.16, 25 cents. Increase the parking permits from the 35 to the 50 would give us an additional $7,740. So the estimated increase in revenue compared to 2025 is that $110,756.25. Our projected loss for fiscal year 25 is $150,000. And the projected deficit going into FY 26 is still going to be that $39,243.75. So as you can see, the increases in fines and fees still doesn't cover the current parking deficit, but the increase in fines and fees would work towards balancing the deficit over time and allow continued parking enforcement operations to be self-funded and not be taken from the general fund, and make fees more consistent with the other surrounding cities. So past the recommendations for immobilization, so booting vehicles. Past due parking citations totaling $60 or greater will make the vehicle eligible for immobilization effective January 2026. A past due citation, just so everybody's on the same page with this, is that it's at least 30 days after the date of the parking citation. We would continue current practices of the $50 immobilization fee. And if outstanding parking citations and immobilization fee are not paid within 48 hours of the date and time noted on the immobilization sticker, the vehicle becomes tow eligible. Tow and/or impoundment fees established by are established by the tow companies, and those would be in addition to the past due parking citations and the immobilization fee. So a motion at this meeting. We're just looking for direction to staff to increase citywide parking citations and monthly parking permit fees as recommended, and bring back updated ordinances and fee schedules to council for approval. We would like to just confirm, with that base cost of the citywide parking citations to increase from the $10 to the $25 on January 1st, 2026. And then the citywide monthly parking permits would increase from 35 to 70 on January 1st, 2026, or citywide monthly permits increase from 35 to 50 on January 1st, 2026, and then to 70 on January 1st, 2027.
Thank you, Marcy. And on this item, it's really for that feedback on that second part of, the discussion at the last meeting was wanting to see some of those numbers if we did it staged over time instead of all at once. So really looking for direction and just confirming, still wanting to move ahead with the increases, but then based on that, would you like to see the staged implementation or just moving it all up at once in 26? So open up for any discussion.
Well, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Marcy, if I may, I was going to double check how much of the fees that we have today for parking fees goes to overhead, and is that an in-town company or is that still an out-of-town company?
Our parking consultant is out of town.
Okay, how much of that $10 currently goes towards each processing?
Let me grab my sheet here. Sorry, I don't want to give you
Yeah, I
incorrect
appreciate it.
information. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, I put you on the spot.
Oh, I just want to make sure I get.
And that won't adjust with the 25 potential increase either, but do feel free to
Right.
find the number.
Right. So when a $10 ticket is paid, the city, we do have to pay the parking vendor like a monthly access, to have a monthly access to the platform. And then there's a per ticket credit card gateway fee. But the city, if we have a $10 ticket There would be a $3.50 gateway fee, so making that ticket $13.50. So we still get the $10, but the vendor gets the $3.50. Because they charge a transaction fee for that. If they pay by, yes, sorry, if they pay by credit card. People can also mail a check and you don't get charged for that. I take that back. You get a $1 processing fee for them to process it on our behalf.
Okay.
But we still get that $10 charged that.
I know we've gone over this in a previous committee meeting, so I don't want to beat the point, but $150,000 is the deficit for this upcoming year. Does that cover our parking enforcement salaries, and what else is
Yeah.
covered in the current parking enforcement budget? I guess I'm just not certain why we're,
So our parking budget covers, I'll just go through the list here. So that includes the parking supervisor and the parking attendant salaries, parking vehicles, the parking vendor fees, so gateway fees, transaction fees, contract services, the parking equipment, so the pay station kiosks, the meter maintenance cards, the parking signage, handheld devices, citation printers and their radios, office and operating supplies like citation paper, citation envelopes, citation booklets, and chalk, their uniforms, so their high-vis safety vests, and their snow grippers.
and last question from me, if we do go the route of booting and towing, does the towing company get us our share before they give them the car, or how does that work?
Yes, so when we have a vehicle towed, if they have open citations, there's a sticker that goes on the front window, and it says hold on there, so the towing company will know, and it's also on the towing paperwork that the tow company takes. It'll tell them that there's a hold.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Yep, go ahead.
The 43 permits per month that we're averaging, that's not exclusive to downtown, that's citywide, is that right?
Correct.
I'm surprised that that number is not higher. Do we advertise that? Do we have any information on demographics, who's buying those 43 a month? I'm just curious.
I mean, it's a mixture of residents and employees working downtown.
I wonder if, and Community Main Street's kind of alluded to this anyway, I just think moving forward with these permits, some partnership with the city and downtown business owners to try to target some of the use of those permits would probably be beneficial to free up some of these parking spots. But I'm just surprised that 43 is the number, and we're getting ready to increase it, so I wonder.
And that's just an average.
Sure.
You know, you've got your peaks, and especially on College Hill, you've got like right now, it's a slow time of the year.
But there's,
So that kind of brings the average number down a little bit, because June and July, students are out of
And then,
school.
maybe a dumb question, but the 75% that we average collecting back on parking citations, is that pretty standard? I mean,
Yes.
for a city of our size, that's kind of what we would expect. And I don't know that the increase on the fee on the boot's going to probably increase that 75% much. So I was just curious if that's pretty.
According to our we've reached out just to see if we fall within the average, and the feedback that I've gotten is we are very close to what everybody else is getting.
Sure.
So,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Yep, go ahead.
Thanks, Marcy, for the presentation. Question on, like Mr. Latta said here, the 75% payment of the fees, fees. If they're not collected, are we eligible, Mr. Rogers, to put those on, say, the car licenses renewal as a?
Yeah,
Oh,
we currently don't do that because there is a lot of admin. We've looked into it. There's fees for us to pay to do that, and every month we have to tell them what to take off and what to add. So there's a lot of admin part on our side, and you have to have separate contracts with every single county. So in Iowa alone, you'd have to have 99 contracts.
Wow.
And then for a college town, you also have to have contracts for any states that go beyond that.
Why wouldn't you add that fee to the payment?
I mean, you could.
I mean, you go to a restaurant and you use a credit card, you get, what, 3.25%, 4% added to your bill if you use the convenience of the credit card?
You could. We have chosen to go with collecting it from taxes. So if they meet a $50 minimum for the state of Iowa, we can submit it to take it out of their taxes.
Oh, tax refund? Okay. I'd be curious what the numbers,
Yes, so you had a good point. That only works for the people from the state of Iowa. We can't
Sure.
collect from surrounding states.
is there other notations, let's say, on the UNI Registrar's Office as far as, can they re-register if they have outstanding parking tickets in the city?
I have never asked them that. I know
I can attest to back 40 years ago, when I was renewing in California, they knew that I had outstanding citations. And they,
I don't know if they still currently do that or not, because like I said, there is a lot of admin work on the backside of things
okay.
to keep it updated, but I can check into it.
UNI probably does for their parking ticket.
They might for their own.
Okay,
Their own parking ticket.
true,
Yeah.
true, okay.
I do know they have some criteria that say if you get a parking citation at UNI, if you get a UNI parking citation, that has to be paid before you can graduate or register for any additional classes.
Sure,
So,
that's good. The immobilization fee of $50, that seems kind of low. I don't know if Director Birdie could say, does that compare? I mean, I would think, I could think of $100, $150, or it just seems,
I couldn't tell you if it's low or high. I can tell you the people who come to get their vehicles don't think it's low.
I agree with that statement.
granted, I bet the compliance after that is pretty high, though, on paying their tickets.
Oftentimes, it's the same people over and over.
Yeah, you've
Okay.
got some repeat offenders.
What if, well, that just seems low to me. I would entertain an increase in that fee, maybe the second or third time, if you're speaking of that. Would that be something?
It's advisable.
Yeah.
If you want to throw that out there as an option, I mean,
I make a referral, or make a, not a referral, a motion?
Well, I can just ask quick, is there any other thoughts on that?
can I just say one thing
Mr. Mayor?
before you vote on that?
Here's my thoughts on that. I'm confused myself because some things I hear, oh, it's too high, and oh, this is too low. So I guess my concern is whatever this council decides as a body, that we stay consistent. So I'm confused just in the back and forth already. So whatever we do, I hope we stay consistent, and I hope we back whatever policy we put in place. So I hear, oh, the permits are too, we need to stagger the permits. And I'm open to these discussions, but then I hear, oh, it's too, we're too low on the boot. So whatever we decide, I just hope we stick to it. And we back whoever's putting the policy in place.
Thank you, Counselor.
Just
Yeah.
a couple things to, I guess, reiterate. So that $50 boot fee is in addition to any of their
Correct.
open citations. So any open citation, so say they got one that day, they have to pay that citation too. It's not just the past due citations. They have to pay everything, and not only just on that plate, but we search our system for any plates that they might have open. So it could be tickets way back to, 2000 that they owe for. If it comes up to that registered owner, they're going to have to pay those as well. So
There's no sunsetting of a parking
they don't disappear.
penalty fee.
As
I was
much as
just-
people would like them to, they do not.
Yeah, well, you think, well, I trade cars, so now I got a different
Pulling
license
up your
plate.
California tickets in no time.
Yeah.
And right now,
I paid them all, by the way, before I could leave.
And right now, plates, as you know, you have to get different plate numbers more often than you used to. You used to keep a plate number for years and years and years, and that's not really the case anymore. So it's a little more difficult to track some of the booting, just
Sure.
because plate numbers do change.
Another quick question, if I may.
Go.
The average number of parking permits, as we said earlier, was 43. How many spots are eligible? How many can we sell if we had a run on them and everybody wanted to get one or tried to get one? How many would we be limited to?
I don't know that total number right off the top of my head, but each lot, we only sell up to 20% of the spaces in that lot
20%, okay.
are sold to permits.
What do we, is there a number in here of how many spots we have in lots?
I don't.
I'm just curious, it's, like Mr. Latta said, 43 seems really low for usage.
I could get that number back to you.
I'd be curious.
Sorry, I
In a
should
future
probably-
presentation is fine.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep. Go ahead.
So I think on increasing the fees if you get booted and if you get booted again, I think maybe that could be something that we could bring back for a future discussion. But I think for tonight, I would make a motion to direct staff to increase the citywide parking citations from $10 to $25. And then the monthly permits, I would increase from 35 to 50 and then 70 the next year, because I just think that is a little bit more smooth, a little nicer on people's wallets.
Yep.
Second that.
So motion and second for that, and open discussion on that motion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I do think it is appropriate to increase the penalty fees to gain more compliance. There's a completely different entity than when you talk about usage fees, and so I'm in favor of the phased approach to find out if $50 scares away some of those 43, or if people learn a little bit more about this and gain a little more security by purchasing a monthly pass. I would rather leave the monthly usage fees low as possible, but I think if we're right-sizing them for our current state and the inflationary costs, et cetera, that 50 is the right way to go, and then see how it goes before we can always change it if we need to before 2027, but moving in that phased approach for usage fees is right. And if you want to avoid a $25 penalty, park legally. Simple.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm great with Ms. Chrisman's motion. I did make reference last time we had a discussion on parking citation fees, just a recommendation that we look at this more frequently, so we're not moving from 5 to, or 10 to 25, or whatever it is we're moving to. It would be better to look at that more frequently than once every, I think we discussed last time, it had been, a long time. Someone refresh my memory, it's been a long time.
I can tell you.
10 or more years.
Technical term is a hot minute.
Hot minute, yeah.
I actually have that here in my notes. I just got to find it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to, I like what's been said as far as the motion that Ms. Chrisman that's put forward. I do want to go back to the immobilization fee and amend it so that something like the second citation, or excuse me, the second booting is $75 and the third booting is $100. Because if we have the same people again and again and again doing it, $50 doesn't get the point across. And it won't be a huge number of people doing it. So it'll be a little bit of revenue. It's real easy to implement.
And then check quick, would that be within a time period? So after, say, a year, that resets?
Well, Mr. Birdie, would you have a comment on that? Do many things in the law reset like that? A booting fee? I mean,
I would actually probably defer to parking on how that would be to manage that. I think, to me, they should last longer, because if you really want it to be a deterrent, if it starts over after a year, it's not that much of a deterrent.
right.
So, and really, I was going to say earlier, the cost of booting the vehicle isn't really the punishment part of it. It's the try and cover some of the administrative costs of the officers and the parking staff who put the boot on and take the boot
Sure.
off. And
$50 seems too low, almost, because you take them out of circulation to go out and do that task. That's why I'm thinking 75 for a second and 100 for a third over the court, as long as they're in Cedar Falls. I don't know why should they drop off?
I mean, it will take a little bit more time to determine if they've been booted previously, just because those plate numbers do change a little bit. So to track that back, determine if they've been
Well,
first boot, second boot, third.
You're already doing it with regular tickets, correct?
doing
that-
it.
My
They're not
understanding.
looking for historical data. When they do the tickets, they're just writing the ticket.
When you were saying you research all the tickets that is owed, any tickets,
So
excuse me, license plates under the individual.
Yes, so we not only query the license plate to see what citations are associated with that, but then once we have the registered owner's name, we also query the system by the registered owner name to see if there's any other plates also associated with them.
So it wouldn't take that much to find a second or a third booting.
I mean, it would take an additional query, but yeah, we could,
Okay.
I mean, we could do it.
You could
It's-
build it into the computer program pretty easily.
Well, it's not the computer program that does it. It would be an actual admin staff that would need to research that when they query it.
I think
So-
it's worthy pursuing because it's,
So if I can just recap, motion to increase, have a stage increase in the cost, $75 second ticket, $100 third ticket. I'm guessing though, just to check quick, would you recommend if we did that, would we have some point where that resets back down to the 50? Because I'm guessing we don't want that for the rest of their life.
Now, you say
would always-
ticket, are you talking tickets or are you talking?
The
boots?
immobilization, yep.
Okay, so every time they're booted, so first, second, third time. I would say you probably should reset it at some point. I don't know, I mean, maybe,
5 years?
yeah, that would be a question.
So that might be something, again, that we could look at for, like, with our next meeting, because we could then know, how often are they getting them? Like, if the person gets booted, then do they get booted again in 3 months, or do they not get booted again for 5 years? Which, I mean, that would obviously take a lot of research to have that information.
And to be honest, some of our most booted individuals are college students who are here just during college years, and then they're off and gone from Cedar Falls.
Yep, we've all tried to ignore those tickets long enough to get out of town.
Well,
For yourself.
My UNI tickets, not so much.
Mr. Mayor, just as a procedural point, I think
Yeah.
for the purposes of this motion, we should move forward without having a second on that one. And then bring that back as a referral. I do think it would be agreeable for many of us to say, hey, let's see some kind of escalator to try and influence and deter unpaying or non-paying folks. But for this one, I don't think we continue to go on the weeds without a second on it.
So check quick, is there a second on wanting to have that discussion at this point for looking at increasing the rates? Or we can have a discussion and look at that as a later referral.
I think not with these.
I'm just of the opinion, let's get the job done now. That's always been the way I've operated. Why kick the can down the road?
Right.
I don't think we are prepared for right now. I'd like to get it
Okay.
solidified. I agree with you, Daryl, that there does make sense to have an incremental increase from time to time for deterring, but I'd like to know, Marcy, you need to dig into what that query would take, right? So we don't know that right off our top of our heads either, so I'd say the referral will bring it back, but to move forward with Hannah's.
So just
Motion.
procedurally to check quick, so I'll look one more time for a second on that discussion, or we'll move forward. All right, seeing none, so we're back to the original motion for the increase in the rates from 10 to 25 in January 1st, 2026, with the incremental increase of 35 to 50 by 26, and then up to 70 and 27. Any further discussion on that?
Oh, one quick question. I got to find it. The $5 penalty, it said state law or Iowa code. That's the maximum late fee you can have? Okay.
For Iowa code.
Okay.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions, conversation? And as we're motioning, I will open up for any public input on this item as well. All right, seeing none, come back to the group. Any other further conversation? Otherwise, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that motion carries. And then, Marcy, if you just want to keep moving on?
Yep. All right, so the next section is going to be the proposed metrics for parking counts after the input from all the meetings. So you've seen this slide before. The parking consultant, Fishbeck, provided the below occupancy guidelines at the June 17th, 2024 Committee of the Whole presentation and recommends regular parking counts, monitoring the financial situation, adjusting, and then planning for changes. So as you can see, anything under 80, 80 to 90, 90 to 95, and then 95. So the baseline targets recommended by the parking consultant Fishbeck, when the core of the downtown is regularly over 80% parking occupancy, you should be planning to add parking. For example, seeking sites, selecting funding tools, preparing council for tough votes, and communicating with the community that there is a need for more parking. When parking occupancy is regularly at 85%, we should be looking at the process of building additional parking, such as buying land, hiring a design team, and securing funding. So that next page has, we changed the map up a little bit on this page as far as the wording goes. You've seen that side of it before, but I'll go through it again. As recommended by council, you would like us to continue to monitor and collect parking occupancy counts quarterly and then present them to council on a biannual basis using the same format as previously provided, similar to this map that you're seeing over here. Now, this map is slightly different from the previous map because we are now using the color-coded where you see the overall color of each area, and that is the average occupancy by zone over there. And then per the parking consultant, they recommended doing monthly parking occupancy counts, conducting 2 timeframes each month, weekday, midday, and then Friday or Saturday evenings. And when we regularly, 75% of the counts, a particular time frame, evenings are over 80%, you should be planning to add more parking. When the counts regularly exceed 85%, you should be actively adding more spaces, designing and building a parking structure. 1 year of parking counts regularly over 80% is adequate to plan for additional parking. 6 months of occupancy over 85% is adequate to feel confident there is a need for more parking. Occupancy counts collected will determine if a demand for parking structure is warranted based on occupancy benchmarks chosen by the council. And then this next page is just the details of that map that you see on the previous page. So that previous page, the line that you see at the very bottom, the total average occupancy is what's represented in that map. So we switched this up a little bit from the last presentation based on some requests from council. So we now have it divided into the non-core zones and then the core zones, so that you can clearly see you've got Clay, Franklin, and the Southern being with those total up to be, and then Main Street, State Street, Washington, all being part of the core. And then it was asked that we add like maybe what the weather was during that time, and then we'll also list if there's any events happening during that time as well.
And so just to speak to this quick, kind of going back to that previous slide, looking at 2 slides ago that looked at the actual recommendations on what actions you should be taking and what steps, those would be based on the core zones column, the average weekday and average evening weekend occupancy of those core zones is what that recommendation then relates to. So for the core zones, for the average weekday occupancy, we had about 62.24%. And then for the core zones of the average evening and weekend, we had the 77.89%.
All right. So just to kind of wrap that up, we want to just get some clarification. Staff we're planning to present collected monthly parking occupancy counts back to council on a semi-annual basis until they exceed recommendations by the parking consultant, Fishback. If there's any major changes that are seen, we'll bring it back sooner. But otherwise, that will be the plan, is just to keep collecting monthly and then coming back on a semi-annual basis.
And just be explicit about it, essentially based on the recommendations from the consultants and what we're seeing with the data is right now, we're seeing that we're kind of near that ideal occupancy range for what our parking counts are at.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, this information doesn't include the future coming online of approximately 60 additional spots at the U.S. Bank spot, right?
Correct. So it's not the additional spots, and then just since it was mentioned that last meeting, some additional businesses coming online, but that would be some of the goal of keeping the counts going, is to make sure we're keeping up with this in real time.
So I very much appreciate the work that goes into providing that data. And so I'm in favor of just simply continuing that and not taking any action at this time.
I think everybody last time was interested in seeing how those additional approximately 60 spaces affects what we've got down there too. Okay.
Any questions on just the data at this point or conversation?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Thank you, Marcy, for this presentation again. I think the data is super helpful, as Councilmember Hawbaker mentioned as well. We want to see those to kind of prove it out. I would note, just for residents' sake, that core downtown area, just 2 blocks over, it's 16% parked, right? So, you know, if you walk a little bit, it'd be a little better. I've heard some residents say that we don't have a parking problem so much as we have a walking problem. So I think we could all take a look at the free parking that's available just 2 blocks away and not worry so much about getting a ticket, if we want to just walk a block or two. Additionally, that Main Street being the kind of near occupancy or near max where we'd have to do something about it, there's not a real good way to put a garage on top of Main Street. And I think it's limited because of the meandering street, and we like that design and all, but there's limited parking right there on Main Street. Anybody that's coming to visit the downtown core, just look a little bit outside that main perimeter and you're going to find spots. That's my 2 cents on that side of things.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor, I got a quick question for Marcy.
Yeah.
I believe is Main Street no parking after a certain time, and then the side streets you can park 24 or overnight?
Correct. Main Street has an overnight restriction, so you cannot park on Main Street from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Okay. And then the side streets,
Side streets, you can be there overnight.
and then when do they start enforcing ticket, or that's coming up here?
So enforcement starts at 9 a.m., but you have, so if you're parked on one of the side streets, you have a 3-hour time limit. So really, they'll chalk you or digichalk you at 9 a.m., but you'll have till noon to get your vehicle moved.
Are we going to work our way to talking about that 9 to 8? That's coming up in your
That is
presentation.
in the next portion.
Okay, perfect.
Any
Got the
other,
points together here.
any other questions, conversations on just the
Mr. Mayor?
database? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not interested in putting another referral on the topic right now, but as far as the parking attendants, not trying to, consider anything, but we have these 4K cameras all over downtown now. Is there any AI system that can look at parking spots and would start to notate, this zone has not moved, thus you need to go out and send an enforcement rather than patrolling very inefficiently, honestly? I mean, have we looked into those yet?
I mean, there's LPR equipment that we could put into the parking vehicles. It's approximately $50,000 per vehicle.
Okay.
So right now, we're not looking at that. As far as the cameras that are like mounted on Main Street, I wouldn't know the answer to that. That would be maybe an IT question, but I could ask them to see.
I think it'd be very intriguing. In the day of AI, I would be shocked that we wouldn't be able to find out that a car has not moved for 3 hours with the imagery that's out there now. So it's worth looking into.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other conversation? Otherwise, Marcy can keep going.
All right. All right, so just to give a better comparison, I moved the 2 maps beside each other. So you'll see that first one with all the purple on it is the original map that was the proposed paid parking area. So as you see, that goes from First Street down to 7th Street, over to Clay Street, and all the way to the river's edge. Through many of those meetings that were mentioned at the very beginning of tonight, the revised map is what you see on the right-hand side after the input from all of those meetings, asking us to bring in that paid parking more to the core and giving more free parking on the surrounding area to encourage employees and some people to park there while working. So just to kind of go through it then. So timed parking, based on that revised map, would continue as currently posted for both on and off street. The parking enforcement hours would still continue as the Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. If we do not go ahead with paid parking, those are going to remain the same. A paid parking system proposal after the input from all the meetings. So we would be removing the timed parking and implementing paid parking on Main, Washington, and State Street corridors from 1st to 6th, and that's represented by that solid blue, which would be $1 per hour after the first free hour. And again, just to reiterate, that first hour would be free, and that was based on input that we heard from different meetings. We would also remove timed parking and implement paid parking in the 5 municipal lots, which are represented in that hatched blue, as you see in the legend, again for that $1 per hour after the first free hour. We have a total of approximately 662 paid parking spaces. That would be the solid blue, hatched blue, and the hatched green. And the breakdown of that on the on-street would be about 340 spaces, plus the paid public lots, which would be, those are about 322 spaces. And that does include those approximately 60 spaces in that newly acquired US Bank lot. We would install pay station kiosks at the 5 pre-existing locations, and you'll see those with the blue circle with the letter P, along with 7 new locations, which are indicated by the green circles with the letter P. We would remove the 3-hour timed parking on 3rd and 6th Streets between Clay and Washington. And then we would also relocate the 15-minute parking from the 600 block or the west side of Clay Street to 6th Street between Clay and Washington Streets. We would continue free parking in approximately 641 spaces in the following areas, and those are indicated by the solid and hatched orange. So the public library lot, based on input that we received from the library at these meetings, that would remain free, not a paid lot. And then Franklin and Clay Street corridors from 1st to 7th, the State Street from 6th to 7th, and then 7th Street from Franklin Street to the east edge of downtown, along with 4th and 5th Streets from State Street to the east edge of downtown. All the other existing ADA accessible 15-minute and EV parking would remain as it's currently posted. Paid parking would be a pay-by-plate and could be in 2 different methods, either by mobile app or the pay station kiosks. Monthly parking permits will remain available for the lot-specific purchase in the 5 municipal lots, including the approximately 60 parking spaces in the newly acquired US Bank lot. The public library lot would not be included in permits. The new parking enforcement hours would be Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Free parking would still be Monday through Saturday from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. and then all day on Sunday. Per the current city ordinance, parking is prohibited on any street in the city for a continuous period of more than 48 hours, so that would still apply downtown. We would issue warning citations for the first 30 days after implementation for paid parking violations. We would implement a parking citation forgiveness program that allows 1 parking citation to be forgiven annually per license plate number. And this would not apply to handicap parking citations. The municipal street and municipal lot closures would require payment for lost revenue. And then the overnight parking restriction would still remain on Main Street based on some concerns from Public Works, just to have ease of maintenance with the way that street is laid out. We would also create some paid parking signage similar to the example seen here. So if you look at that example, it's got arrows pointing to where the kiosk is located. It shows you how to pay. It gives our enforcement hours. So as I said, the arrows would include directions to customers to the nearest pay station kiosk. And then for visual consistency, it would have that letter P in the circle. And then it would purposely allow extra space on these signs in case we would want to add any future modifications instead of having to pay for all new signage. Such as, for example, like a text-to-pay payment option. We would also post 3 paid parking signs in front of each parking cluster on Main Street from the 100 to the 500 blocks in the designated paid parking area. And then we would post 3 paid parking signs as spacing allows on each block of the side streets in the designated paid parking area. This picture just gives you an example of how we would label those pay stations, keeping that consistency of that letter P in the blue circle. So just a general recap. The paid parking perimeter was reduced upon request of more free parking spaces for business owners and employees to utilize outside of the core. We removed varying parking fee amounts for ease, consistency, and elimination of zone numbering. We added that first hour free, and we removed paid parking in the public library lot upon concerns heard from the library. Just for informational purposes, if council moves ahead with a paid parking system, the following would still need to be completed. So we would still need to do requests for proposals for the pay station kiosk to determine if we continue with our current vendor or a new vendor. We would update the city ordinances and fee schedules accordingly. We would also hold public information sessions and post how-to videos to familiarize the community members with using the pay station kiosks and mobile payment apps. And then we would also resume a parking committee with the community Main Street, which we've already reached out to Kimbear to see about getting that re-engaged. Any questions?
So again, at this point, just kind of for tonight, looking for discussion on, do you see anything in this proposed plan that would cause you concern, anything else that if we ever move forward with it, that you would want to see changed? One, I think staff's done a great job of taking a lot of the concerns we've heard from the community about, especially business owners, about, if someone's stopping in for just big SAE, stopping in for a bowl and they'd have to pay, adding $1 to a $12 food purchase is a lot of extra in there, so that was kind of the intent behind the first hour free, is to give some flexibility there. Bringing that zone down to more of the core district so that there is still within 2 blocks a good amount of free parking available. Regardless though of kind of the direction, that is something we've talked with Community Main Street about, is resuming some of those parking committee meetings just as we're getting more data, as we're getting some new businesses coming in, some new parking lots available, just being able to keep up with them on a regular basis. Kind of the same thing as this, just running by with some of the downtown residents, business owners. How are things going? Are we seeing different pressures? Is there something we need to be looking at? So that's something we would be looking to do kind of regardless as we go forward from tonight. Otherwise, just kind of want to open up the conversation, and any thoughts on the proposed plan?
Mr. Mayor, I'm thinking that the way that it's done is a tire's marked and it's 6:32 or 6:33, and the attendant doesn't come back. And if they come back at 7:32, that's the hour. Or how do you track that hour free?
So the person would need to register their vehicle to start off that hour. So you would still need to go, either do it on your phone or go to the kiosk to register your plate number or VIN number if you don't have a plate, to get that time started on there. And then on the handhelds of the parking attendants, they can tell when those times have started.
Is that on the app, or did they tell you on the app that, hey, you're coming in to register in spot 72, starting now, it's free until?
Well, it wouldn't have space numbers because we would have to label each space. So it's essentially telling you with all of those signs that we would be posting that you would need to register your vehicle to start your time. And then from what I understand, the app then tells you, and you can actually sign up for it to notify you when your time is running out as well.
Different subject, but on the shared lot, and I believe it's shared with Viking, correct? What's the hours on that, and how many spots are available there?
I don't know the number of spots off the top of my head. I always have to look at my spreadsheet for that.
Do you know the time that's?
It starts at 5:15 and goes till the end of enforcement. So we can park there after 5:15, so after Viking is done for the day.
Roughly 40.
What's that?
Roughly 40.
Yeah.
Roughly 40?
I hate to give incorrect information without looking at it.
Okay, a counselor can give incorrect.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dustin don't care.
Said roughly.
Thank you, Marcy.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Mayor.
That's a lot of work. Thank
Yeah.
you.
One thing I was actually leading up to earlier, but on the current parking enforcement, it ends at 8 p.m.
Correct.
Somebody getting off work at 5, even if they fly home within a couple minutes, they start at 5:05. Parking in what would be a controlled spot instead of a parking lot, say, behind their building. At 8:05, they'd be free to continue parking all night long, taking a spot from a potential patron for a business. I think that should be adjusted in our current enforcement hours to 9 PM, which is actually the suggested enforcement hours with the paid system. I think that'd be very beneficial to move cars off of the street into parking lots that comes with their apartments, because it just kind of matches up with the real world, that 8 PM is no motivation, so to speak, because they have 3 free hours to park, and then there's no enforcement any longer. So if I can do that in a referral with the other booting situation.
So if you want to put some of those together, we can maybe do a referral to just look at some of those changes.
But that's, I see that as a weakness right now because there's no push to get off the street.
Yep.
From 5 o'clock on, basically. 5:01. Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts, conversation? And I know now is the easiest time to give thoughts for change because it's early on in the process. I know a lot of times we wait till there's the initial vote, but I do think too, if there's just any other lingering thoughts or just ideas you have of something you'd like to maybe have us, since we've got some time, we could look into other ideas, but just any other things that you see in this that if we moved forward with a paid parking plan, you'd want to see addressed or looked at?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, it looks like 7 additional kiosks, and I think if I remember right, those were somewhere around $75,000 a piece. If we can reduce that number by maybe putting them in a central intersection for each of the 4 that are near it, I know that still gives us 1 extra as an uneven at the library, but I think that would be one area I would like to see us cut some costs, because this is going to be a quite exorbitant install just with the kiosks alone. I know there are people that are going to want to swipe cards and have bill changers and things of that nature, some that won't have a phone, so we have to have options for them. But the beauty of the app systems is that you won't have to have that physical kiosk cost. But I also don't want to make somebody walk if they can't to pay for their systems. ADA stuff is included in this, is that correct?
Right.
Yeah, so we can't get somebody rolling down 5 blocks to get to a kiosk by biking, right?
Right. So right now, after the last the parking study, additional handicap or ADA spaces were added downtown so that we have them basically on each block, and they're kind of set up the same on each block.
Is that one of the rationales behind a kiosk on every block?
No, just from the feedback, people thought they should be closer than what we had previously, because previously we only had 1 per lot, and we received, feedback that wasn't enough in each lot. So, yeah, there were some that wanted, 2 or 3 within a lot. And
We just go back to coin meters on every stall? Is that
you have some that would like that.
A lot of nostalgia to that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Is there anyone in the room who can speak to the train track removal?
I mean, currently that's pending. We did not get the grant this year, so we're kind of looking at whether some other options. If we can't get the grant, we can always apply next year, assuming that funding stays around. But right now, we're looking at whether the options, whether we were to get the grant or if we wanted to move forward with the railroad, trying to work something out. So currently, no solid plans, but we're kind of looking through, regardless of the grant, whether some of our options there.
I think that would be a good thing to look into a little bit further before implementing this system, just because that would probably affect our number of spots.
Yep. Any counselor? Discussion from?
So to Hannah's point, is there a drawing of how we would fill that spot from probably Main to Clay, I guess, with a different
removing
design
the
of parking spots and what we would accomplish from that?
No, there hasn't been any final design. You're speaking to the east-west portion of Fifth Street, I believe. No, we have not laid that out.
Sure.
Yep, go ahead.
Kind of going back to the fine discussion, fines for 15-minute overparking or handicap parking, that's certainly different than the $10 to 25, is it not, or is that the same?
They're all the same. So if
Handicap
you-
parking is the same?
No, I'm sorry, handicap parking is $200 a
Okay.
ticket. The
That'll
15
stay the same, presumably?
Yes, yep.
Is that a state thing?
It,
Federal?
I think it depends, because I've seen some places that are $100, so we
Okay.
were at 200 for ours.
And you do not get one free ticket for those ones.
Okay.
But yes, the 15-minute would be the same as any other citation, though.
Okay.
And 15-minute, you can get a ticket every 15 minutes that you sit in that spot, so, during the enforcement hours. So those can add up quickly for someone.
Any other discussion from council? Otherwise, just knowing that the point of this is to get just input on that, I'd like to open up for public comment as well. Okay, see none, we'll open up for any public comment on plan tonight. Nice thing is that this is kind of just an open concept at this point, so if there's any just thoughts, considerations, things you'd like us to look into, it's a good time to give any of that input, so. Thank you. Otherwise, not seeing any, bring it back, any last?
Brent, he's
Oh.
coming, he's coming.
Debating.
Yeah. Just name and address, please.
Brent Johnson, 621 Clay Street. Well, first off, thank you for the purchase of the U.S. Bank building. I mean, that's stuff doesn't happen fast downtown, and I mean, that's like I would say once in a generation thing. But I mean, this obviously increases inventory for parking, and it's going to hopefully provide the space for future development or a parking lot, or I mean, possibilities are endless. So that's awesome. I would like to maybe add some caution on adding paid parking until we see how the behavior of the increased penalties, changes what our people are doing downtown. I mean, 60 spots is somewhere between 5 and 10% of added capacity, so that's a chunk of parking for such a small area. I think it's probably a shared opinion amongst many downtown that we actually have a nighttime parking problem. And my fear is that in trying to solve a problem that only exists kind of on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night time frame, we might have the potential to inflict damage, to our businesses, that live in the district, all day long. So during the day when we don't have a parking problem, those customers are going to have to potentially pay when there's ample parking available. So we're trying to correct the problems of our nighttime customers and staffs at the expense of our daytime downtown people. That being said, one of the comments that really kind of irked me a couple weeks ago was something to the effect of, where's my employee going to park if a parking pass gets increased to $70? Now, as downtown merchants, are we supposed to be thinking of our customers first or our employees first? I care about my customers, I care about my employees, but my employees get to park second. Those spots are for our customers. That's what makes our businesses successful. And I guess lastly, as a landlord, with the extension of the nighttime enforcement, this could create some unintentional consequences for the ability for like what I would call legacy landlords to rent property. These are the property owners up and down Main Street who don't have access to code-required parking. So when our tenants get off of work at 5, they need a place to park. And if, their preferred spot, I'm sure, is going to be behind the building where they live. If they need to, plug the meter or pay the app once they get in at 5 o'clock all the way up until 9 every day down there, that's going to make our properties less attractive to people who want to live downtown. Now, some of the State Street and newer developments, they have parking that's built in. They have to provide. So for those of us that have downtown properties, it can become a challenge to be competitive, as we try to rent against those people. So a potential solution could be a discounted nighttime permit between the hours of 5 and 9, maybe, or allowing legacy property owners to potentially lease a space, during those hours for our tenants, knowing that during the day, those spots will be used hopefully by our customers and not our employees. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anyone else for public comment on this item tonight? Seeing none, bring it back to council. Any further discussion from council on this?
I do have one question maybe for Marcy or whoever. Is there any discussion of having just paid parking in the evenings, to the point that was just brought up that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we got, a lot of people in town for socializing. During the day, it can be wide open, but they're still paying when there's lots of spots. Could we do it evening only paid parking, or how could that?
That has been brought up, but it's been brought up both ways. To his point, some people don't feel that there's a daytime parking issue, that it's more evening. But then you have people that feel that that's unfair to only make the people that come out for the restaurants and the bars in the evening pay for parking, and then the daytime businesses don't have that. So, I mean, there's been discussion both ways.
Sure.
I think too, that's with that parking commission, getting the group back together.
Right. I mean, I hear the merchants downtown saying they're paying high school kids to work $10 an hour, and now it's going to cost them $1 of that 10 to park close to the store, unless they walk.
I was going to say, unless they walk or they
Yeah.
park, and that's where
Sure.
some of the business owners, and that's part of our conversations, to.
So it's been
maybe
talked
have-
about, so it's,
yeah,
okay.
to just kind of educate where some of that free parking would be, but you might have to walk, a couple of blocks to do that.
And to that end, we heard that from Community Main Street 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, whenever we had this conversation last, that it does seem as though there's an appetite from Community Main Street to really partner with us to try to educate some of those business owners who I'm sure are keenly aware of where the parking spots are, but maybe to perhaps incentivize folks to park a little further away so that your customers have got those spots, so.
And just want to second and appreciate Mr. Johnson, what he said too about the residents living downtown. A little bit different experience, because when it is busy, it is sometimes hard to, when you get home from the end of the day, find a spot to be able to park for just going home. But again, that's some of those things beyond just the paid or not paid. Maybe some solutions we can look to with some of those conversations with business owners. But any other discussions from council? Otherwise, just a quick update. So we will keep tracking the data. We'll keep bringing everything together. We'll plan on bringing an update presentation back to council as we get the new parking structure or parking lot in place. If any big business changes happen that cause a change to that parking dynamic, we'll bring some new information back. But at this point, it'd just be keeping an eye on the information. We'll be working with Main Street to get that parking committee back together and just start making that meet on a regular basis so we keep up with them. And
Can I ask one last question?
yes, you may.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Director Birdie, I was going to ask a question because some of the folks, the employers down there are concerned about some of their employees walking after dark. Is there any kind of a system that way? I know we patrol down there. We've done some ride-alongs with folks, and it's a safe area, but if they feel like they need a little extra set of eyes, is there any program that they could call your folks in those after hours?
They could sure call dispatch, and we would help out any way we could. I can tell you that the downtown area, that area kind of, State Street to Clay, 1st to 6th Street is very heavily patrolled until 2:45, 3 a.m. And if you've even been out that late, you would know that. Oftentimes there's probably as many police cars down there as there are other cars late in the evening. So, but if anybody ever had that concern, or business owner, we've had people call concerned, especially heading back towards the Viking Pump lot and things like that. We would help and give escorts as long as we have people available. But it is very heavily patrolled in those late hours, and really until just about everybody's gone home.
Cool. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Director. Anything else for council? All right, seeing none, we will call this meeting adjourned, and we will be back here at 7 o'clock for our regularly scheduled city council meeting. So, thank you, everyone.